Hi everyone, so these are problems 7 through 11 because period 5 didn't get the full review due to the evacuation. Okay, here's number 7. So basically you're told that triangle ABC is isosceles, and if it's isosceles then the base angles have to be equal. So each one of these is 70 degrees. And you know that the three angles of a triangle equal 180, so 70 and 70 is 140. So if you subtract that from 180, you will get 40 for this angle in here. Okay, let me just erase that. Okay, now another piece of information that you were given is that AC is parallel to BE. So if AC is parallel to BE, then that means this line over here and this line over here are parallel, and this is the transversal, and you can see that there's a Z shape there. So if you have a Z shape, you always want to be looking out for alternate angles. So in the corners, these have to be 40 degrees. And the question was asking for angles CBE, and that's this one right here, and so that was 40 degrees. Okay, number 8 is just a straight midpoint question. It's just saying what is the midpoint. So for the midpoint, you want to always start off with your 2 points. Label them. Write the midpoint formula. Which is just averaging the x's and the y's. Okay, so for the x's, you have a -2 and a 6. And for the y's, you have a -4 and a 2. Okay, so this is going to give you a 2. A -4 plus 2 is a -2, and -2 over 2 is -1. So that was the answer for that. Okay, we're up to number 9. So we're asked for the center of a circle, and we spoke about in class for buzzwords, for the midpoint formula, center would be one of those things. But if you want to think about this visually, you have a point 8, -4, so let's say that's around here, that's A. And B is -3, 2, so that's somewhere over here. These are the endpoints, and they're saying that there's a circle, and A and B are the endpoints of the diameter. So if that's the diameter, that means there must be a circle that looks something like this. And you need to find the center of the circle. So the center would be the midpoint of A and B. That's really all this question is asking, but in a much more complicated way. Okay, so we're going to do what we did before. We're going to write our 2 points. Label them. Write the midpoint formula. And then substitute. So for our x's, we have an 8 and a -3. And for our y's, we have a -4 and a 2. Okay, notice I'm keeping parentheses around everything so I don't forget that I'm talking about a point with coordinates. So I'm going to get 5/2. A -4 plus 2 is a -2. -2 divided by +2 is -1. So that's equal to 2.5 and a -1, and that's why the answer is choice 2. Okay, I'm going to erase so I can do number 10. This doesn't want to erase. There we go. Okay, and so for number 10, again, it's a midpoint question, so I'm going to write my points. I'm going to label them. I'm going to write the midpoint formula. Okay, so just keep in mind, all we're doing is averaging the x's and averaging the y's. Okay, so for x1, I have 3x plus 5 plus x2, and x2 is x minus 1. And for y1, I have 3y, and for y2, I have a -y. Okay, so now we're just going to combine like terms. So 3x and 1x is 4x, and 5 minus 1 is 4. And 3y minus 1y is 2y. And that doesn't match any of the choices, and that's because it's simplified. So for the x-coordinate, you can divide this 2 into both terms, and that will give you 2x plus 2. And for the y-coordinates, the 2's cancel, and that leaves you with a y, and so therefore the answer is choice 2. Okay, and finally this is question number 11. So I think visually it's good for you to see what this would look like on a graph. So the coordinates of A are 10, 12, so let's say that's like somewhere up here. And M is 2, 8, so that's somewhere like over here. And M is not the endpoint, M is the midpoint. So you have to find B. So you go from A to M, and then you have to continue. It has to be the same length, and your B should be somewhere over here, and you need to figure out exactly where it is. So first of all, just from a common sense perspective, you can take out choice 1, which was 610, because 610 would be like somewhere over here, like right there, and that makes no sense, so forget that. Okay, choice 2, negative 6, 4, okay, that looks like that could be right. Choice 3 would be the third quadrant, down here somewhere, excuse me, which is a possibility because we're not using graph paper, so we're not so sure. But number 4 we could take out because that would be in the first quadrant, and that makes no sense. It can't still be, well, it can't be bigger. It can't be over here somewhere. That just makes no sense. Okay, so the easiest way for you to figure out how to do this is to say, okay, how did I go from A to M? Let me just get another color. Okay, so to go from A, this is not cooperating. Okay, to go from A to M, so let me just write the coordinates for a minute for M. I should have done that before. 2, 8. Okay, so I was at 12 and I went down to 8, so that means I went down 4. And I was at 10 and I went to the left 2, so that means I went left 8. So now I'm just going to follow that pattern and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down 4 and I'm going to go left 8. Okay, so if I was at 8 and I went down 4, that means my y value should be 4. And if I was at 2 and I went left 8, that means that I should be at a negative 6. So negative 6, 4 would be the answer. So you might have thought that this used distance. It has nothing to do with distance. Yes, the distance from, the distance from here to here has to be the same from here to here. But that has nothing to do with this. They're not asking you anything about distance. If they had asked you for the distance, then you'd use the distance formula, but this is asking you for the midpoint. So you would not use the distance formula. Okay, I guess that's it, and I hope that helped.